Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Happy Monday, Dr. Paul. How are you?
I am doing well, ready to go and solve the problems. We'll try to help out Julian Assange once again. We haven't done a whole lot, but we called attention to a few people. Our last information that we gave on our program last Thursday, a lot of people watched it and they were interested in it. And I'd like to get an update on that, where it stands. Not that it's been resolved, because it is going to be a while. But, the more I thought about what was going on, the more what our position is here confirms my assessment of our own foreign policy. Mm-hmm. And I guess at one time I said it sort of jokingly, but I think it's more truth than a joke. And I've always said that what we do is we have two foreign policies. We tell people what to do. And if they do it, we reward them. We give them a lot of money. And if they don't, they're in for big trouble and they're liable to get bombed and we'll invade them or there'll be a coup. And lo and behold, we find that, Moreno didn't do badly, the president of Ecuador. He's been playing footsies with us and gaining some money, and he delivered, after he became president. It's a shame because the previous president is the one that allowed or got it set up where Assange could be at least protected to some degree. But he evidently is out for him, and that now, of course, he's delivered him. And this might not even be all of it. And this is probably an official tool of ours, is to provide these funds. This idea that we hate NATO and IMF and we're going to get out, that's all a bunch of talk because we own them. And 20 years ago or so, I always thought we were getting ripped off and we had to pay all the dues and this kind of thing, and we didn't have the votes. Well, we have the money and we have the power and we have the army and we demand, and I think it all merges together with NATO as well. Yeah. And and Trump evidently has used it. Now, the IMF promised or has delivered already 4.2, but there's another $6 billion in the pipeline for them. Wow. And darn well this didn't come from the poor people of the world. It came from the poor taxpayers of the United States. And maybe not directly. Maybe it's just money we print, this sort of thing. But there is a cost, and we're trying to buy our friends. I predict it doesn't work, won't work, and it'll eventually fail because either they'll get angry at us or the money will quit working, so it won't matter much. But that is, I think, a lot of what's going on. And Moreno's problem has a sort of, made it work for him. Yeah. And their country is better off, and he was also looking for prestige. He's a big shot now, working within he doesn't care any more about his people than I think our government cares about some of our people.
Yeah, it seems the case. We trace it back to, I think it was June of 2018 when Mike Pence went over there, and I don't know how hard he had to twist arms, but the message was clear. You need to deliver Assange to us, and hey, you want that loan? We'll deliver that to you. And it's kind of ironic because Whitney Webb, who does some great work on Mint Press News, had a piece out today. Ironically, you talk about why they hate Wikileaks. Wikileaks back in 2008 released a document showing exactly how the U.S. government uses the IMF as a tool to manipulate foreign policy. It was a U.S. Army document from September 2008 titled Field Manual, Army Special Operations Force Unconventional Warfare. Let's just put up a little quote from this, Dr. Paul. And I haven't showed you this yet because I was just looking at it, but I'm going to read it. Just the second part. It's a little long, but I think it's worth it. At this 2/45. Like the economic activity which all nation states, human groups, and individuals respond to, the Army's Special Operations Forces can use financial power as a weapon in times of conflict up to and including large-scale general war. Like the economic activity that it is related to, most financial power is unmanaged, routine, and peaceful. However, manipulation of U.S. financial strength can leverage the policies and cooperation of state governments. Financial incentives and disincentives can build and sustain international coalitions waging or supporting U.S. unconventional warfare campaigns. And here's where it gets interesting, Dr. Paul. As part of an interagency effort, the U.S. Treasury can recommend changes to U.S. policy that can provide such incentives to state governments and others at the national strategic policy level. Participation in international financial organizations such as the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the Bank for International Settlements offers the U.S. diplomatic financial venues to accomplish such coalitions.
I guess that sort of supports my theory on foreign policy. But I don't know why that shouldn't be called bribery. They ought to be punished. You know, the other thing that sort of amazes me is the media doesn't help us for exposing these lies, to try to just sort it out in a journalistic fashion. At the same time, they hate Trump, and they're not going to do anything to help him. But the issue of this money and the control, this is the deep state. Yeah. So this is over the line because there's a separation there. Yeah, we'll keep pestering and we're going to get rid of that Trump guy. But in the meantime, we have to support certain things in the deep state. And so the propaganda machine, there's going to be no defense, essentially no serious defense in the media for Assange. It's going to be tough to do it. And people who do defend him, they're going to get in trouble. Of course, they say, oh, well, they're not even going to challenge him on the espionage. This is not going to be a free speech issue. This is just going to be a hacking issue. But what really counts now is the intimidation, the powerful intimidation, how powerful this is. It's sort of like PC, political correct control of language. Yeah. They don't take you to court and say, oh, you said so-and-so. But boy, if you use the wrong pronouns or do anything else. So it is an interesting thing going on. There's some unconventional things going there, but I think there's a fascinating, in a way, about how they can hate Trump and yet probably telling the truth would, expose Trump as much as anything because, I guess he's changing his tune. He does. I don't think he loves WikiLeaks anymore.
He had a memory problem, I guess. And then Sarah Sanders, his spokeswoman, I sent you that earlier, she said, oh, he was just joking when he said he loves WikiLeaks. So, but you wrote about this today in your column, what they're trying to do is because they know that, I think the U.S. mainstream media knows that it has an Achilles heel on this because this is a free press issue, but they dare not say it. They want it to be a hacking issue. But as you pointed out in your piece, what Glenn Greenwald wrote right afterwards, what he's accused of doing is something that other New York Times, Washington Post, they advertise that they do, which is if you have a source who wants to leak something, you help that source do it anonymously. That's what it was. It was not hacking. It was helping Chelsea Manning anonymously leak material that was incriminating against the U.S. government.
So it was the issue that was more important to them. They wanted that issue out, and they can skirt the rules and don't apply them there. Of course, I don't think they've ever been too interested in following the rules of journalism. It's been around for a long time where their participants. I saw a little clip recently on TV about leading up to World War II. How many lies and innuendos and preparations that went on before World War II broke out and what was known before, but the media participated in all that, and they still don't really talk about things like that. They don't talk about how many we do all the time, but they don't talk about how we got lied into Vietnam, not very often. But over time, people do learn it, but it's too slow.
Yeah.
You're right. We sure messed up in Vietnam. They lied us about Tonkin, Gulf of Tonkin firings. And then also, more people are beginning to realize that lies were told about Iraq. But in the meantime, the lies continue. And that's why the progressives that we work with are very sympathetic to these financial organizations. Oh, the World Bank, we're going to feed starving people,
Yeah, right.
which is nothing more than another weapon for whoever gets control of the food and assistance that we send.
Yeah.
And that's always a part of the war.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about lies and spin, and that's really all they have. And the media loves it. They're pushing it. Now, the narrative, as you say, they're trying to demonize Assange. They know they can't attack him on the publishing and the journalism, so they're attacking his personal habits. And it's ironic because the Daily Mail, in the same article where they talk about how the Ecuadorian government is complaining about what a monster he is. He's smearing his feces everywhere, and he's just disgusting and horrible. They put up pictures to prove it, and actually we have those pictures from the very same article to prove what a monster he is. That's a clean bathroom. That's a lot better than any dorm room. The kitchen, he's got a dirty plate on it. Okay, sometimes that happens. He's cooking a pizza on a pretty clean-looking counter. If this is supposed to show why they had to revoke his amnesty, his protections, I'm sorry, that's pretty thin gruel.
You know, the one picture that struck me was the one where he had just come out of the prison, and I don't know whether the sunlight or something hit him because he had been locked up for a long time, and he was disheveled and he, not shaved or anything, but he had one eye open, the other one he could barely open it, and it reminded me of some of the old movies of people escaping or finally leaving a dungeon after being there for many, many years, and that's maybe almost literally true. It was like living in a dungeon, and solitary confinement can be pretty torturous. Yeah. And it's something that it should cause all Americans to be concerned. Not only because of free speech and free expression, but also we're responsible for the bad things. That's why we should have always been concerned about Guantanamo. Yeah. And the whole issue of torture, but the whole issue of going to war without the Congress's approval. And so the American people just, are lackadaisical. But it was encouraging, Daniel. I have to say, we did well with our program because on Thursday we were trying to alert people. This is serious stuff. Yeah. So we reached a lot of people that didn't hear that on the television. And I don't know what you can think, but the numbers were good. But what if each one of those numbers talked to 10 other people? Yeah. So there is an influence. So when we get discouraged about not saving the world, do we have an impact? That we should look and that's generally true about all issues. Ideas and all spread. The more serious ideas spread that way rather than just through the propaganda machine. And this is what's great about what's happening today. The large majority of people now, if you just hear the announcement by the government, most people either they get turned off and they ignore it, which is a lot better than consuming it. Yeah. But others now are saying, why should we believe them? And there's a lot. There's a lot that will not believe either party, but unfortunately, that's alive and well. The party machinery and the deep state are able to get people to concentrate on this contest between Republicans and Democrats, and that's the only issue. And they forget who runs the deep state and who spends the money, who starts the wars, and who runs all these policies, Republicans and Democrats. And yet so few people ask those questions. We'll keep asking the questions.
Yeah, and another thing they agree on, they both want his head on a pike, Assange's
head
on a
that's
pike.
right, and that's the big thing now.
But, Cassandra Fairbanks, who's a real gutsy journalist, she's the kind that's not afraid to get her hands dirty. She had a tweet earlier today, a series of tweets, where she reminded us, and it's actually something that I remember, because one of the things they want to demonize Assange and WikiLeaks with, they put our troops at risk, they put our people at risk, they, cause a lot of people to die. And she reminded us that on October 16th of 2010, then Defense Secretary Robert Gates wrote to the Senate Armed Services Committee confirming that no U.S. intelligence assets or intelligence sources and methods were compromised by the WikiLeaks dump of 2010, which is what he's being charged for.
And it's my understanding, and I think this verifies it, is that they did watch for that. They literally went over anything they released so that it would never injure anybody. But a lot of people, are still bitter, and they say, well, no, we should execute him because, they've endangered our American soldiers and this kind of thing. So It's a shame because I think telling the truth should never be seen as exactly a negative. I guess some extreme examples could be used to refute that, but no. Get the truth out, and that's the biggest job we have, because we're going to hear the excuses from our government endlessly, and we shouldn't think of it as Pelosi versus Trump. It's
what a joke.
It isn't that.
Well, our good friend Bob Wenzel, I think he cheered me up, maybe cheered you up, but he had a nice little piece about our show on Thursday that, as you say, did very well. He called us the best political and foreign policy show on the internet. So that feels good. And, it can be disheartening, for our viewers as well as us. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to resonate things. And as Dr. Paul says, if everyone who watches the show talks to a few people, that really expands the influence and expands the debate. And, little things can make big differences. So we appreciate you joining us. Also, if you want more, RonPaulInstitute.org. Go there and subscribe. I do a mailer. I did an article on Friday, I think, on some additional thoughts about WikiLeaks that I send only exclusively to our subscribers. It's free. We never share your name or information with anyone. So there are many ways of getting informed and getting in touch. And, hopefully we will continue to reach out to people and enjoy their support. Dr.
Very
Paul?
good. Well, I think as time moves along, I don't know how quickly this will move, but he will be extradited. He will be in the United States. There will be a trial, and it will be more of a show trial. And maybe the whole goal wouldn't be to concentrate on freedom of speech, but that's what it's all about. It's to squelch the people who have the courage to tell the truth, no matter what they call the trial, because they want to intimidate the people who are inclined to, and they'll look and say, look at what he went through. Oh, yeah. Oh, they're not even going to try him on speaking out. They're going to try him because he was hacking a computer. So it's going to be distortion, and it's going to be try to scare people and to discredit an individual. Of course, I imagine that there aren't very many perfect people that ever lived on Earth. So I imagine they're going to find some things, and they're going to concentrate on that. But that's where there'll be uniformity. The media is going to be very uniform, at least the major media. And that's why our message and the message of so many others now with a similar message, that we have to do our very best to be heard. And like we mentioned the other day, it still is worthwhile, as frustrating as it may seem. Let an elected member of Congress know about it, because just remember, the Vietnam War stopped when the money stopped. The money stopped because the streets were in riots and people got sick and tired of the ridiculous killing of American soldiers for no good reason other than somebody told a lie about the war. So yes, it does have an effect. Sometimes it's slow and tedious. And when the Congress changes their mind, it's usually because the people are speaking out on the streets and sending a message and telling them what they're going on. It's not through the average legislative process that somebody's going to introduce a piece of legislation and all of a sudden lecture to their colleagues, and they say, oh yeah, it's time to come home. The people have to let the members of Congress know what they're thinking about. And regardless, the prevailing attitude of the people have a lot of influence on what's going on in Congress. Just think, the prevailing attitude on economics has been paper money and Keynesian economics. Everybody's been taught that in schools, essentially. Democrats, Republicans run it all, and they all endorse it, and it just is automatic, except the real control is with the deep state and the control of the Federal Reserve System, so it's all a distortion. So the prevailing attitude is important. That's what we want you to do, to reach as many people as possible, and maybe something good will come of this, and that our side will have a voice, and they'll say, yes, this is absolutely right. We should be more cautious. And unfortunately, though, a lot of harm has been done, and they're feeling good about this. This they see as a victory. Biego, we got this guy, we got him. And it only cost us $10 billion, a little bit of somebody else's money, in order to bribe him to release him. So anyway, we'll be watching this closely and reporting on it, and hopefully that we will contribute to something very positive in the outcome. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.